Hello, a Grace to Grow community. Dee and I are super excited that we get to share our very first episode of interviewing another couple. We've known Jason and Alicia probably over the past 12 years. We've watched each other grow in the marriage relationship and in the family dynamics. We serve together in a lot of areas. We serve our communities and in our local church. We are super thrilled to allow them to share some of their personal experiences. They're very transparent. They have a lot of wisdom and good nuggets that will help foster what we try to do here at Grace to Grow, is to really encourage you and help and give you something that will help you move forward, whether it's in your relationship, your family, or even in your finance area of finance. So I'll allow Dee to share the things that they're involved, that they have going on to bless them. So babe, you wanna share?
Yes, Jason and Alicia actually have 3 businesses / ministries. The first one is Alicia's Taste of Heaven. And if you have not tasted Alicia's cooking, you are missing out. She makes some amazing cakes, and I don't even eat cake, but she's got me to try a few of them.
That
and
one
they're
cake
amazing.
with that icing, the butter pecan, and the pound cake. Alicia knows now. Listen, you gotta try it.
Yeah.
Seriously.
So be sure to check her out on social media, Alicia's Taste of Heaven. They also have the Linton Bridge, where they have marriage and relationship coaching, which is so needed in today's society. And last but not least, and I believe this was birthed in 2020, Manifestation. This is men and women coaching and healing classes. Again, something that is so needed today. And I also wanted to mention that Jason and Alicia are also our Spades rivals.
Get it right, babe. They're students. They're still in class. They're being taught. They're not rivals. They're students. They
Okay.
have not arrived yet. They're gonna get us.
They are. But anyway, check out our conversation with Jason and Alicia. Okay, so on this episode of Grace to Grow, we're going to be talking with the Lintons. Would you all like to share?
Sure, babe. Go ahead.
We are Jason and Alicia Linton. We have been married. It'll be 12 years in February. We have 5 beautiful daughters and 4 grandchildren. Yep, we're grandparents. 4 grandkids. That's 2 boys and 2 girls. So yeah, that's
And
it.
I'm originally from New York, and she's from Greenville, South Carolina.
Yes, and we're a blended family.
Yes.
Yeah, I came with 3. He came with 2. The Black Rican Brady Bunch is what we call ourselves. So yeah.
Oh, yes.
Awesome.
Love it. Okay, so we already shared with you, we're going to have a couple talking points, questions. And since you all are family members, we pretty much know, your successes and your trials. So one of the first points we want to get, in your perspective, what are the key elements to becoming and flowing together as a husband and wife? Y'all do it so well, but we know it don't come easy. So what type of work you had to put into it, and when did you know you got there?
Okay, well, to start out, I had to get a full understanding of the word love, because a lot of times we have a misunderstanding of love. We think of it as an emotion, but as I grew to understand the assignment of love, the forgiving, the grace, the patience, the not holding records of wrongdoings, all of that stuff is an assignment. And when I accepted that assignment, it was able to flow through me, and my wife was able to gravitate to it, and then our children gravitated to it too. But it took me getting a full understanding of what that word actually meant and applying it rather than just speaking it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You want to share a little bit?
I completely agree with what you said. I think it's honing in on that assignment part. I think understanding that the person that you actually come into a relationship with, that if it's been, ordained and it's been deemed and purposed by God, then you are on track and you are on assignment to make sure that you are loving like Jesus loves us. And just seeing that person, sometimes not always as your spouse is when things are happening, but also as your brother, your sister in Christ, because, okay, how does Jesus love this person? When you're not feeling all lovey-dovey and everything else, I still have to love this person as my brother or sister in Christ. So I think that's one thing about that assignment of love.
Okay, so to put a point on it, gravitating towards the assignment of love, unconditional love,
Yes.
creates that healthy flow.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. So you all mentioned in your intro that you're a blended family.
Yes.
So I have a question regarding that. How do you all create a safe and successful environment in a blended family?
Loving intentional. Back to love again. It takes the being intentional with each individual, understanding how everybody's personality flows together, understanding what everybody needs, and how everybody interacts with each other. It's kind of like cooking. You have your different spices, and you go to put everything in the pot. If you put too much onions, then it's gonna kind of mess up the balance of the flavor. So for everybody to be able to blend together, for that dish to be able to come together, you have to make sure all the right pieces are in the right place. The right amount of attention is going to the person who needs this type of love or this type of affection, and just always making sure there's proper communication, a plethora of communication throughout, to make sure that each person understands their place in the family, and understanding where they should be, pretty much the hierarchy between, the husband and the wife and the children, and everybody just understands where their place is, and knowing that nobody is more important than when it comes to the kids, just knowing that everybody has a place, everybody is loved, and everybody has a purpose in the family.
Awesome. And we're going to be sharing a little bit more on blended families in future segments, but I have a question around blended families. So how was it bringing the two families together?
It was very challenging because a lot of times we are dismissive as adults to how it affects our children. And we had to actually be intentional about understanding how each child was affected. For example, if you have a child who was the oldest and all of a sudden they become a middle child, that challenges them to no longer be that second one in charge per se, but to have two people above them. And if you're the youngest child, it really doesn't affect you because you're still the baby of the bunch. But just understanding how each child is affected and still allowing them to grow at their proper pace. And just making sure nobody's voice feels like they're overshadowed or not heard.
Yeah, but it takes a lot of time and love and attention and patience and grace to get to that point, because everybody, we didn't go into it with the manual. We just went into it and just like, okay, why is this not working? So just back to love, back to understanding, back to communicating, back to figuring out who needs what at what time, and then that's how we ended up, we flow well now. It's like, it's really hard for some people to even realize that we are a blended family. Like, people are like shocked to this, to this day when we talk about it. Because our children love each other wholeheartedly, like they are flesh and blood sisters. So, it's good. Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna throw a little curve in here because I noticed something. Being close to y'all, I know Alicia. I will ask this question to Alicia, and Jason probably could put a little one. Isn't it fair to say the man really has to be the solid piece? That he has to exemplify what love is, and really he has to be the one to disseminate the different types of who needs what. How much work really that it takes, because people need to know the ingredients of really learning how to cook, because everybody sees the cake at the end, but really working on it. The arguments of trying to be the peacemaker, where the personalities are not meshing together. So just give us just a little snippet of what work really takes place behind the scenes and getting that to flow. Definitely the husband, the man needs to make sure that he is, I think the one thing that helped us a lot is that I didn't have to wonder too much, probably sometime somewhere in the beginning, but I didn't have to wonder a lot of where I stood, with him. And also I didn't want to be in a place where he always felt like he was torn, choosing between me and choosing between, his daughters who was there before me. But however, when it comes to a marriage and the way that God has ordained our marriage and the way that God has designed marriage, in that hierarchy, it's, the husband and the wife, and then it gets to the children. So he made sure that they understood that I was his queen, and we call each of our children, our daughters, our princesses. So it's like, you're not forgotten, you're not thrown to the side, you're part of this whole kingdom, together. And it was just, he made sure that he always was intentional with each child and loved each child and showed attention and affection to each child. But also, and those were the parts of that, bringing those seasonings and those spices
spices and everything together to make it a beautiful dish, because he made sure that, you know, did it always happen perfectly all the time? No, but he did it intentionally, and you know, for the most part, I always wanted to make sure every person was knew that they were important and nobody should ever feel left out.
Throw a little bit in there, Jason.
Okay, I'm going to take off the gloves and I'm going to say that, hey, it was tough. There was times when I had to cry. There was times when I had to pray. There were times when I really didn't know it was going to work out. And that was times when I really had to trust God. That was when I had to trust the investment that I was making in my children and in my family. And it took a while to see the fruit of it. It took a while to see, okay, you know what, they are going to make it. It took some arguments and seeing them recover from the arguments without me being involved. That was the breakthrough when I was able to say I didn't have to be involved, that they were able to get along without me. And that was the breakthrough, and it helped. After that, I said, you know what, we're gonna be fine as a family.
Wow, wonderful, wonderful. Okay, all right. So wrapping it up, we want to ask this question. Name 1 or 2 foundational principles the Lintons live by that has helped you throughout the years.
You pick one, I pick one.
You start.
Okay. I would say the biggest one for me is that we disagree a lot. We're both strong-minded. We're both bullheaded. We both believe that we know we're right. And I think when we got to the point where we both agreed to apologize for our portion.
Come on. Yes,
to
sir.
where wherever we were, we realized we did not want to be there any longer. So we're going to apologize for our portion of it because we both played a part in getting here. And I believe once we started doing that consistently, the arguments didn't even, we were able to realize the arguments weren't worth it, and they didn't last as long. We were able to get past it a lot faster. I apologize for my portion, and even if the other person was still in their feelings, when you come with that heartfelt apology, it's like, you know what, let's hug, let's pray, let's move forward.
That give credit to where we say don't let anything disrupt our peace. Man, that's wonderful.
I would say probably foundational is definitely communication, because it's, you know, I'm very verbal and nonverbal. I am equally just as my huff puff, roll of the eyes, slam a cabinet, you name it, I can do it, and just all these things I'm not actually saying, but I'm also can cut with my words, and sometimes it's intentional and sometimes it's not. So it's just like getting to the point of knowing each other, communicating on how something made somebody feel. We got to a point that we really need to say, you know what, when you said that, it made me feel like this. You may not have meant that, but this is what I felt about it. And also realizing sometimes when you do have those feelings can lie. And it's just like, maybe you should check your feelings instead of always being, you know, because that spirit of offense be sitting around waiting for something to jump hold to. So it's just communicating with each other about, you know, anything that our likes and our dislikes, and just making sure that we keep in tune with each other. Because I mean, that oneness is developed through not just love and he cute and everything else, but it's actually through intimacy and conversation with each other to know that, you know, what your checks and your balances.
Yeah, and I would add this one thing. The communication really helped out because one of our secrets is I tell God on her and she tells God on me.
Get your
Wonderful.
son. Get
so
your
therefore,
son.
once I tell God on her, I have no more right to argue with her or be mad at her about it, because now I'm putting the responsibility on God, and vice versa. And that's helped us a lot because
Get your boy.
he'll check me when I tell on her.
It always happens.
Yes, it never fails.
And I don't like it, but if it's gonna make us a better team, then it's worth it.
Yeah, and it's just that close on that. A lot of times, sometimes that may be the best solution. If you feel like, okay, I just don't understand, I don't agree with it, go talk to God about it. Because the thing about it, for me, it's just like I'll be sitting there talking to God about like, why does he do that? And instead of God saying something about Jason, it'll literally be like, well, you do the same thing, but you do it this way. And let me show you this, and let me bring back to your remembrance how you did it. So it's just like, yeah, if you don't agree with your spouse, go tell God about it. And at the end of the day, he'll fix you and them at the same time.
Wow.
Well, that is definitely awesome. We enjoyed spending time with you all and look forward to future segments with the Lintons, A Grace to Grow.